Good afternoon in Germany and good evening in Pakistan. Thank you for joining us. GPCI has always taken great pride in its ability to organize thoughtful events that serve a purpose and provide value to all our attendees. Staying true to this tradition, the German-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, along and in collaboration with the Honorary Consul for Pakistan in North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany, is happy to have this discussion webinar on the International Accord. Without further ado, I could like to request our President, Mr. Parvez Akhtar, to please say a few words welcoming you all.
Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. I'm Parvez Akhtar, and on behalf of the German Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I welcome you all to this webinar titled A Discussion on the International Accord and Pakistan Accord. I'd like to thank Mr. Matthias Theis, Honorary Consul of Pakistan for North Rhine-Westphalia, for his wonderful cooperation and connecting us all on this topic. Mr. Matthias has always promoted bilateral trade between Pakistan and Germany and has rendered valuable services diligently. He is a bridge between our two friendly countries and has always tried for the mutual benefit of our countries. It was earlier this year when I met Mr. Matthias in Düsseldorf, and we agreed to discuss and hold this webinar on this important topic, and I'm happy that it is materializing today. Today we have with us a panel of experts who comprise of diverse group of highly knowledgeable individuals with expertise relevant to our discussion. And I invite and encourage you all to deliberate on this subject freely. I also take this opportunity to thank the panelists for their time and expertise and all participants who have joined us today. Together we aim to offer a valuable and balanced insights to enrich our discussions. Now I'd like to hand over to Mr. Matthias Theis for his comments. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Matthias.
Thank you very much, Parvez. Matthias,
Yes.
can you please?
So, first, good afternoon and salam alaikum to our friends in Pakistan and goedemiddag to Amsterdam und herzlich willkommen nach Deutschland. And about me, I'm the Honorary Consul of North Rhine-Westphalia now 8 years. And in addition, I was a director of the IGEDO Fashion Fairs, what was in this time the biggest fashion fair in the world. I was also managing director of textile companies, so I'm textile professional, and I understand the side from customers, side from NGOs, and the side of the manufacturer and the suppliers. And the last days with a lot of suppliers in different sizes, so it is different, the interests and the work for small and medium companies to big players. They have a big respect to the Pakistan Accord, and there are many questions, and this is why I'm very happy to create with GPCCI together this important webinar. And I hope this is a basic for the future, that we can find in total a green and a social way, because this is what everybody wants. But what you have to understand is that I'm behind the Pakistan textile industry in my position that I'm the Honorary Consul of Pakistan to North Rhine-Westphalia. And when I spoke with some producers, there were so many questions. They say, okay, today is a webinar about the accord. Maybe tomorrow we have to talk about fair trade. Next day is supply chain law. Then other is coming for GOTS. The next is grüner Punkt. Grüner Punkt, maybe for the customer of Netherlands, it's not important because it is label. So, and in my mind is that we must find a way that everybody understands that the Pakistan Accord is a big help for more volume in the future, and that is a good way but again, many open questions, especially who must pay anything. So for a small company, it is not for a big player. So, and the customers made in the history a lot of money in Pakistan. So maybe they can pay also, or it comes from government side also. And you see that there are so many different positions. And in my mind is important that we have a fair play. And a fair play is also that the European Union must have a look also maybe to Italy, where are 50,000 Chinese in Prato, and they are producing with fabrics out of control by custom, and it's made in Italy. So, and this points is also what we have to clear. That must be an absolute fair play. And so I'm happy that everybody is here and to have a good open discussion. And thanks again for your team, Pervers, for the good organization. And that's from my side in the moment. Thank you. Pakistan, Zindabad.
Thank you very much, Matthias. I'm happy to announce our first speaker for today, Mr. Joris Oldenzaal. He's the Executive Director of International Accord in Amsterdam. Mr. Joris Oldenzaal, please continue.
Thank you very much, and salam alaikum, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you very much to the Pakistan-German Chambers of Commerce to organize this event. We look very much forward to having this discussion with all of you, and we are grateful for the opportunity to present the International Accord and the Pakistan Accord here today. So I was asked to give you a quick update on where we are and what the International Accord is and what is the current status of the establishment of the Pakistan Accord. I will keep it as short as possible, so let me just share my presentation and go through that, and then we have hopefully enough time for the other speakers and also for the discussion. So let me just see if you can see my screen like this. Just a minute.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, very good. Let me just first outline the International Accord. So the International Accord for Health and Safety in the textile and garment industry. You can see the slides, right?
Well, I cannot.
Okay.
Not in the moment, Joris. It was there, but now it's not.
Let me just try again.
Now, okay.
Yeah. Just want to make sure you see the full screen, not the next slide. So the International Accord is a legally binding agreement which was signed in September 2021 between 190 global brands and trade unions. And this is the successor agreement to the Bangladesh Accord. So many of you will know the Accord on Fire and Building Safety in Bangladesh, which was established in 2013 after the Rana Plaza building collapse, and then renewed in 2018 as a transition accord, where the work of the accord has now been transitioned to the RMG Sustainability Council in Bangladesh. The 2021 International Accord was renamed to International Accord from Bangladesh Accord because it includes a commitment to review whether expansion of the program to other countries would be feasible and beneficial. So we have three key programs: the Inspections and Remediation Program, which looks at the technical aspects of fire, electrical, structural, and boiler safety. We have a OSH, Occupational Health and Safety Committee and Workplace Training Program, and we have an OSH Worker Complaints Mechanism. The International Accord at the international level is a bipartite governance, which means that we have brands representing in the board of the Accord, Inditex, CNA, bestseller PVH in Otto. And Jochen Overmaier is here today as well, representing the Accord Brand Steering Committee, who represent those 190 brand signatories. We're actually above 190, getting close to 200 at the moment. On the labor side, we have Industrial and Uni Global Union, who are the global union federations at the international level, and also their local affiliates that are affiliated to Industrial. The Accord is a private initiative, so it has no official governmental alignment, but the International Labour Organization, the ILO, is supportive of the initiative and acts as the neutral chair to our steering committee. We also have 4 NGOs as witness signatories. So the key principles of the Accord are, of course, the independent fire, electrical, structural, and boiler safety inspections that we conduct at all the factories that are producing for the Accord brands. The development of corrective action plans for those factories with support of the brands. And we then conduct follow-up inspections to monitor the implementation of these corrective action plans. The disclosure of the factory list as well as the remediation status on a factory by factory level. That is a very good way for factories to show what kind of progress they are making, and a very helpful tool for brands to see which factories are making the most progress and therefore are most interesting for them to place orders. There's also a commitment, and it was already mentioned by the previous speaker, that concern, of course, is always the costs associated with implementing the remediation. Well, there is a commitment from the brands to ensure that remediation is financially feasible, and a commitment from the brands to negotiate commercial terms with their suppliers to ensure that remediation is financially feasible. We finally have this training and worker complaints mechanism, which is covering all occupational health and safety issues. As I said, the key programs being fire, electrical, structural, and boiler safety inspections, the safety committee training program, and the worker complaints mechanism. So here you can see some of the activities that will be taking place when we do the inspections, including checking of the structural strength of the columns, including checking of the fire alarm and fire protection systems, electrical systems checks, and boiler safety checks. The Safety Committee training program is really a training program to focus on the labor management safety committees in the factories and to promote joint problem solving between management and labor representatives, and to also teach the Safety Committee on identifying safety hazards in the factory so that they can really play a meaningful role in monitoring safety in the factory on a day-to-day basis. We also have an all-employee safety informational component of the program, whereby we inform all the workers of their rights under the Accord, how they can file safety complaints with the Safety Committee, or how they can use the Accord's complaints mechanism, but also very practical, how they can safely evacuate the factory in case of a fire. Our independent complaints mechanism has been quite effective. If you look at the numbers in Bangladesh, for example, we have had more than 1,800 complaints and focusing on fire, electrical, structure, and boiler safety complaints, but also other health and safety related issues such as heating in the factory and other issues that are related to the health and safety of the workers. The Accord investigates these complaints independently and then works together with the factory management to resolve these issues. It's important to note that this is all in accordance with the German and upcoming EU supply chain due diligence legislative requirements. So the Accord is really a good way for German brands and other brands that are operating on the German market and in the near future at the EU market to comply with their human rights due diligence obligations. If you look at what we have achieved over the last 10 years in Bangladesh, there have been a lot of achievements. So we have had more than 92% of all the 2,000 factories that we have inspected are now remediated, with almost 40,000 initial and follow-up inspections, and more than 150,000 findings on fire, electrical, and structural safety, of which, as I said, more than 92% have now been remediated. So we really see a lot of progress in Bangladesh, and the program has also really benefited the Bangladesh industry. As many of you know, since the 1st of June in 2020, we have transitioned the work to the Bangladeshi RMG Sustainability Council, which is a tripartite organization consisting of brands, unions, and local industry manufacturer representatives. So then onto the Pakistan Accord. So the Pakistan Accord for Health and Safety in the Textile and Garment Industry is a separate agreement, but it came out of a feasibility study that we conducted in over the course of the last 2 years to assess which countries the Accord program could be established and what would be for which countries an Accord program could be beneficial. So in December 2022, after this year-long feasibility study, it was agreed to establish a program in Pakistan for an initial term of 3 years, starting from January 2023. So the Pakistan Accord is really aligned with the principles and policies and procedures developed under the Bangladesh Accord and the International Accord. And what is very important to mention here is that the Pakistan Accord will have a national governance body. So similar to what has been established in Bangladesh with industry, brands, trade unions, and others upon agreement being part of the local governance body that will have a very important say in how the program will be implemented and rolled out across all the garment factories, the home textile and fabric mills in the future that are within the supply chains of the brands. What we agreed with the steering committee is that we would have a very phased approach. So we will implement the Pakistan Accord in a phased approach and in close collaboration with key local stakeholders. It will also include a capacity building program together with the government to ensure that our expertise is also structurally implemented and sustainably implemented at the national level. So key activities in preparation of the launch since January have been the onboarding of brands that started since the mid-January. As I mentioned, the development of a phased implementation plan, which we have developed very much in a draft form because it is a basis for further version. Okay. We have developed this phased implementation plan that will be a basis for further discussions with Pakistani stakeholders. So we really look forward to discussing this with the stakeholders to see how can we best roll out the program in such a way that is acceptable and realistic and feasible. So for that, we have also engaged in extensive supplier engagement with individual key suppliers of some of the brands, of the steering committee brands, but also with some of the industry associations. For example, with Mr. Ijaz Kokar, who is also speaking here today. We are working on the establishment of a legal entity in Pakistan so that we can have the operation start on the ground. In the meantime, we've also engaged with the Pakistani federal and provincial governments, including, for example, the Labor and Human Resources Department of the Sindh and Punjab province. We are in the process of finalizing the Pakistan Accord building standard, for which we have done extensive consultations with experts in Pakistan, including the Pakistan Engineering Council, NASPAC, and many other key experts. We're at the moment collecting the factory list from all the brands. So all the brands that sign on to the Pakistan Accord have to submit the list of all the factories that they produce, they source from, and we're selecting now the first batch of the initial inspections. So the Pakistan Accord covers all the cut, make, and trim facilities, so all the ready-made garment factories that are producing for Accord brands, but also all the home textile, fabric, and knit accessory suppliers that are producing for the Accord brands. And in the future, we will also be covering fabric mills. So the timing and the process of that will be depending on further discussions with the Accord board as well as with the key stakeholders. So here you can see a list of some of the key brands that have signed so far. More than 65 brands have signed. I won't mention all of them, but you can see a lot of the big names, a lot of German brands like Aldi and Lidl and C&A and Otto, but also a lot of UK brands and a lot of other brands from Europe, but also from the US. And maybe very important thing to say today is that just last week, we're very happy to announce that Gap Inc. has also signed on to the Pakistan Accord. So we have US brands like American Eagle Outfitters and PVH, which is from Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein, and now also Gap that have also signed on to the Pakistan Accord. You can see here that we have developed the phase implementation plan, and we're now basically in the pre-launch phase where we are doing all the preparations. And once we have the legal entity established, we will actually start rolling out the program. And we very much look forward to further engaging with the industry associations and other key stakeholders in Pakistan on how to set up a local governance structure and how to implement the program in a phased manner. So finally, the current status, as I said, over 65 brands have now signed the Pakistan Accord, including major brands like Gap, Inditex, Bestseller, PVH, etc. These brands together are sourcing from more than 450 factories, mostly in the Sindh and the Punjab province, and they are collectively representing more than 2.5 billion worth of export value, covering more than 750,000 workers. So the Pakistan Accord is really gaining traction, and we are very happy that we can have this discussion here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Uris. I would like to now request our next speaker, Mr. Jochen Overmaier. He's the brand's representative steering committee, International Accord Amsterdam. Mr. Jochen, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Danish. Yeah, good afternoon, good evening, salam alaikum, especially to our Pakistani participants in this webinar. Yeah, shortly introduction of myself. I'm since 2015. I'm representing about 200 international fashion brands in the steering committee of the Accord, and today the International Accord. But I'm also in the board of directors of the RMG Sustainability Council, so the RSC, which is dealing with the responsibilities under the Accord in Bangladesh. Joris just presented for you in detail the Accord concept, and I'm sure there will be questions which we are happy to answer at the end of this webinar in the second part. I would like to provide you a more general view on the brand perspective of the Accord. In June, there has been the Global Fashion Summit in Copenhagen, where the Accord has been introduced as the most effective safety campaign in the history of the modern garment industry. In the last 10 years, the Accord has managed to have turned a whole industry in Bangladesh from the earlier perception to be cheap, to be unsafe, and threatening the life of workers to one of the safest textile industries worldwide. Accord is one of the few initiatives who has managed to create a win-win-win situation for all parties participating in it. Workers have much safer working environments. Industry, national industry, has gained an advantage position in international competition, and brands have seriously reduced their risk which they are exposed to in their supply chain. This is a clear formula for success in my view. But let's not be understood. It has not been easy for all participants and required a lot of efforts by everyone, but there is clearly a reward for that. So let me quote Dr. Rubana Haq, the former BGMEA president. She said just recently, way back in 2013, 2014, right after the Rana Plaza collapse, export from Bangladesh was 24.49 billion, followed by 2014, 2015 number of 25.49 billion, and it has continued to grow ever since. The last export figure of 2021-2022 registered an export of 42.61 billion. What led to this growth? The answer is pretty straightforward this time around. Bangladesh has remediated over the last 10 years the factory situation with regard to structural, fire, and electrical integrity standard at A++ level. So it is recognized by the national industry that the 10 years they have put into this, and as I said, it was not easy for everyone, really rewarded. And so what we have managed in Bangladesh, we hope we will also manage in Pakistan too. But of course, this will only function when all parties work together. And if I talk about all parties, I mean those who are seriously involved. These are brands, this is national industry, and there are the unions. We start at a quite favorable position, I think, as the experiences and learnings we have gained in 10 years working in Bangladesh will definitely help us in Pakistan. The industry in Pakistan will therefore experience a system which has been proven to be successful. So it's not a test flight what we are doing with an uncertain outcome. So we actually know what we are doing, and we have learned what functioned and we have learned what is not functioning. But of course, this requires that all parties work along and support this huge task. To be very clear, brands cannot afford, especially under the new EU regulation, but also increasingly US legislation, to produce in unsafe factories, where they cannot assess and evaluate the risk to be confronted with accidents and tragedies. Also, US brands have started to realize that, as otherwise Gap would not have decided to sign the Pakistan Accord just recently. We have had our learnings, of course. The original bipartite accord approach between unions and brands after the Rana Plaza tragedy may have been adequate at the beginning, but we need all three partners on board, brands, unions, and industry, to reach a common and mutual goal. And it's a mutual goal because all decisions in the accord, in the steering committee, in the national boards will be taken by mutual agreement. So there is no overruling. Either we do it together or we don't do it at all. The international unions have a clear responsibility also to enable their national constituents to work and support accord constructively and not constructively, with a clear focus on health and safety. That will especially mean training of workers to take care about their personal safety and address such issues to the management, and be able to report non-compliances to the accord through the international fully recognized grievance system to then be remediated. The brands will have the responsibility to guide and support their suppliers to reach the common goal. That will happen through the full finance of the Pakistan Accord, audits, and other activities by the brands, and the financial support in remediation measures where proven otherwise not feasible. The industry representatives have the responsibility to guide and support the initiatives for the sake of their industry and provide the Pakistan government with the support they need for international trade negotiations. The accord has a clear aim of national capacity building so that the occupational health and safety finally is dealt with where it belongs to, the national Pakistan government and national constituents. To be very clear, it's not our task to come to Pakistan and stay forever. We want to initiate something. We want to put it back in your hands. There is where the responsibility is. We would like to help you on this way and support you. And for that, brands are willing to pay for at least for the next 3 years, where these brands have signed for the Pakistan Accord here, to finance the system fully. Especially the Inclusion of industry representatives in a tripartite approach is a very important step also for us as brands. Nevertheless, it will depend on the clear will to support the accord to reach a common goal. There's only one rule, which is that there are no compromises made on safety. Everything else is adaptable. Therefore, to be very clear, brands will only continue to work with those business partners who support the accord and remediate their factories. Brands will take no risks with factories who drag their feet or obstruct the procedures. It is a fair process and all participating positively will prosper, but those who won't will lose business with all accord signatories, which is very clear. In Bangladesh, more and more factories ask for RSC auditing as their international customers have made this the core requirement before even entering into business negotiations. So it's not that the brands are nominating, they are still doing it, but nominating suppliers, but suppliers in Bangladesh knocking on the door of RSC and said, I don't get a foot on the ground in the international fashion trade if I'm not RSC audited. And this is what we have started, that we call them independent factories. They get their own audit. They can come into the market and say, this is where I stand. This is how my factory looks like. This is where this is my progress in remediation. Nobody expects you to be perfect here, but we expect you to be transparent, and fashion brands expect you to know what is the risk, and they expect to know actually how it is remediated. Each country has specific situation and challenges. This will be different in Pakistan to Bangladesh, of course. Some of the factories will already be far advanced. Some may have to do serious investments to be able to persist in the global markets. The time for concluding the remediation will be carefully evaluated and not overstrain industry for sure. We want to remediate. We want not to kick you out. We want to make the factory safe, that you can continue with the business. We will start soon, as Joris has explained, and we welcome everyone who will support us and work with us to repeat what has been achieved in Bangladesh with the aim to create a national organization and ownership like RSC has become for Bangladesh. See it as a chance rather than a challenge. The accord is not just another product label, but has the aim to transfer a whole industry to meet the expectations of the global markets and become a preferred and sustainable buying destination. And we will start definitely with the alliance of the goodwilling. Thank you for listening.
Very much, Dr. Noah Meyer, the time out and explaining everything to everyone. Our next speaker is Mr. Ansar Loban. Mr. Loban is the head of the CSR department of KIK, Textile and Non-Food GmbH. He's the managing director of KIK Bangladesh as well. Mr. Loban, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. Salam alaikum to everybody, to all of my friends to Pakistan, and especially to the Honorary Consul of Pakistan, Mr. Matthias Theis, to give me the invitation and the possibility to talk about KIK's experience so far on the ground in Karachi and in Lahore about our building safety project. So I prepared a little presentation for us, and the presentation will last for about 20 minutes. Just one moment, I will upload this one now. And I hope that you are able to see that. Okay. So I want to start my presentation with a question: why KIK wants to bring the accord to Pakistan? To answer the question, I want to start with the existing or upcoming EU regulations. So since the 1st of January this year, 2023, we have a German Supply Chain Act. The ones who joined the webinar back in 2021 might remember that one, because I was talking a bit about the requirements of the German Supply Chain Act. Now upcoming, we assume it will be in the year of 2026, will be the European Supply Chain Act. We call it the CSDDD, Corporate Social Directive on Due Diligence. And also we have the Corporate Social Reporting Directive. This is the second one, which is highlighted in color red. What I want to point out here at this stage, that all the three regulations directly refer to better working standards, to better production standards in sourcing countries, and the accord directly gives a concrete and strong answer to the requirements of the law. What I want to say is, as long as we are bound and fall in the scope of these three different laws, the accord gives the best answer in order to join that one. Other upcoming EU regulations, they refer to the EU taxonomy. The basis is that capital flows should be directed into sustainable activities. There is also a regulation on deforestation by now, which has been finalized in the meantime, and all the other ones which you can see here as well. What I want to point out is that the most relevant ones in order to join the accord for a brand like HIC are the first three ones which I mentioned here. Coming from that, definitely EU regulations are definitely one of the biggest requirements why KIC joined the international accord by now. But on the other hand side, since KIC is buying from accord since many, many years now, I would like to say at least since 20 years, for us, the most important and critical item is to improve the security and fire protection in the factories. Still by now, unfortunately, we see factory fires, especially in the hot summer months. We know that also Karachi was startled from several earthquakes. And coming from that point of view, we think that it is a must in order to care about building and fire safety in Pakistani garment factories. What we also learned by now is that there are no governmental inspections done in the region of Punjab. That means there are a lot of garment factories, home textile factories in Lahore and Faisalabad as well. I personally was visiting all of the factories producing for KIC. Then definitely, as you are all aware of that one, the GSP Plus prolongation is about to be done now by the European Commission. We are quite sure in KIC that signing the accord of several brands and bringing all the factories into the umbrella of the accord is the guaranteeing factor that the GSP Plus system will be prolonged between the European Union and Pakistan. To increase the competitiveness, this is what Joris was talking about. Also, what we saw in Bangladesh is that the turnover rates, except for the time being, which we are facing now because of the war between Russia and the Ukraine, is that the turnover rates are heavily increasing per factory. That is a strong and clear sign that the accord was bringing much business over to Bangladesh after, let's say, 95% of all the accord requirements have been put in place by the factories. And last but not least, NGO expectations as well. As you all know, in Europe, we have very strong NGOs fighting for the rights of the workers, definitely also under the umbrella of the German Supply Chain Act. And all these elements highlighted here on this presentation are the motivation why KIC was the first signatory of the accord in Pakistan back in December the last year. This very set presentation, or let's say this very set slide, I want to highlight now what is the what was the motivation why KIC was bringing over the Building Safety Initiative in the year of 2017 to Pakistan. And also to Bangladesh. We saw a lot of factory fires. We see a lot of factory fires here. It started with Tashreen Fashion in Bangladesh, then the heavy and dramatic Rana Plaza collapse back in the year of 2013. So this was the wake up. This was the wake up call why in Bangladesh an initiative as the Accord has been founded there. And there was a counter initiative as well as the Alliance. This was for the US brands. The Alliance for Bangladesh Worker Safety has also been founded a couple of months later. As I just said, back in January 2017, KIC was launching its Building Safety Initiative in Pakistan. And what are the lessons learned? If I make a summary by now, number one, the safety conditions can potentially be insufficient. I would rather highlight the words can be or are. So that means I would like to say nearly all the factories which have been inspected under the structural point of view had several findings. Then what we found out is that factories in some cases were not originally designed as an industrial building. And coming from that, it is quite sure that they do not have appropriate safety equipment inside the building. And last but not least, we found out that import procedures and shipping needs to be factored in the remediation process timeline. That means that the required fire safety equipment was not available back in the year of 2017 until 2021 in Pakistan. By now it's getting better, but these kind of factors need to be taken into regards as well. Coming to the next slide, I want to show you that the focus of our building safety initiative was being laid on structural integrity. I will explain to you further what are the different elements which KIK was inspecting inside the different factories. And later on, for sure, I think that's the most relevant question. I also want to show you a cost chart so that the factories which are present in the call do know what the upcoming cost might be for them. We also took into regards the part of electrical safety and fire safety as well. All in all, by now, 58 factories participated in the KIK Building Safety Initiative. And I can say that 65% of all the detected findings so far by the engineers which KIK was hiring have been remediated so far. That is not enough. But that is also for us a story where we say, yes, KIK is ready definitely to join the accord. And as I said to you, we were signing the accord back in December the last year, and KIK has a strong will in order to go further with the factories under the umbrella of the international accord. And all of the factories founded so far a functional health and safety committee as a provision that all the factories are eligible and prepared for the upcoming occupational health and safety committees, which are also required under the accord. This is how the inspection and remediation process looks like. Joris was also pointing out this slide as well, because we did not align the presentation, Joris. So I also highlighted it once again here, how KIK was working together with the factories. So first of all, our engineers, which have been hired, I can tell you the name of the company. We made it with company Elevate, which is our auditing and engineering partner down on the ground in Pakistan. They were scheduling in inspection with each of the factories. Then a lot of documentation, let's say the structural form K, the building layout, the single line diagram, and a lot of other documentation has been sent over to Elevate in order to make a pre-review of these documents. Then there was a personal on-site factory visit, which took about 1 to 3 days, depending on the number of workers, depending on the number of floors of a specific factory. Then a corrective action plan has been raised for all the different three chapters, fire, structural, and electrical. And then it is the duty for the factories to start the remediation process. Here, I want to point out that KIK was always, or let's say more or less, keeping order volume stables in order to offer the factories financial incentives to invest into the remediation work. And last but not least, there were several so-called follow-up visits done by the engineering team of Elevate in each of the different factories in order to ensure ourselves that the remediation part has been done. So what is covered under the structural assessment scope? As you can see here, part of that is that design drawings are being checked by the engineering team. There are some very basic, simple calculation to identify safety margins of each of the floors. System weaknesses have been inspected, loading conditions as well, structural distresses as well, and so on and so on. And there are also some tests done, the so-called ferroscanning tests, in order to help to determine the number of rebar in a structural column, and then also to assess the exact number of rebars inside a structural column. After all this is done, in the structural part, we went over to the electrical part. So that means first the structural part has been assessed, and under the electrical part, the single line diagram, this is the electrical system. The drawing of the electrical system has been assessed by the electrical engineers. You need to know that there was an engineer coming from the structural side, one engineer dedicated to the electrical side, and one specialist for the fire safety side as well. So we were checking the earthing system, and also we were making resistance tests of the different cables. And last but not least, we were checking the correct sizing and wiring of the cables. And also we were making thermographic scans in order to inspect if a temperature inside the panel board, or let's say at the low tension panel, at the LT panel, or at the generator was mainly too high, in order to make a quick action against that one. And the last part which has been inspected was the fire assessment scope. So first of all, we checked if constant and regular fire drills have been done in the past. Second, if there is an evacuation plan available, and definitely if there are enough exit capacities available inside the factory, of, for example, chemical rooms, generator rooms have been separated from the workforce, or let's say if there is an automatic fire alarm system available and the standpipe system as well. These are some pictures of the structural test which have been done. So what you can see on the right hand side, this is a check of the laser meter and of a ferroscan in order to detect the number of rebars inside. What was quite astonishingly in one of a factory in Karachi was that inside a structural member, there were not rebars, but there were bamboo wood inside. Immediately, the factory has been shut down by us in order that the remediation process could be done. These are examples of how engineers are checking electrical panel boards via infrared cameras and via thermographic scan. This is how a corrective action plan of Elevate looks like. So that means that there are a number of questions which are being asked, and then you have pictorial evidence also highlighted here on this sheet in order that all the different findings can be properly followed up by the factory managers or by the engineering teams as well. This is example what we also found in some factories in Karachi. What you can see is corrosion damage of rebar, which is very, very common, I must say. During the inspection, what Kik made, cracks in the wall, horizontal cracks, vertical cracks are quite common as well. So here, this is an alarming factor, yeah, that something is not right, and this definitely requires a detailed engineering assessment, a so-called DEA, detailed engineering assessment, and for that time, all the production has been stopped inside the factories. These are some pictures of electrical cables, also some factories of Karachi. What you can see is some of the cable were damaged. The insulation material was no more there. This was quite common back in the year of 2017 to 2018, but these were also, what I can tell you, the quick fixes. So here the factories are able to concentrate immediately on in order to repair such kind of damages. These are panel boards, how they should look like, organized, no multi-looping inside, and properly organized as well. These are some examples after installing some fire doors. What Mr. Obermeier and Mr. Oldensie was just pointing out, that part of the fire safety issue was definitely in order to install fire doors, and the most relevant and most important areas where to install a fire door was, number one, the storage area, so that all the combustible materials of carton boxes, of fabric rolls, accessories, and are being separated from the workforce. Then the next one is that chemical rooms are also separated by a fire door, and definitely also the generator room, or let's say the LT panel room as well. These were the most important topics of the fire safety issues. Now I want to give you a rough estimation, and I think that is definitely what you all want to know. What are the costs involved, or what were the costs involved? Let me better put it like this, because that sheet is 3 years old now. That means we had a short stop during the coronavirus in Pakistan as well. But this table should give you an overview about costs involved for the factories. So this is a typical 4 stories building with 40,000 square feet, 2 flights of stairs per floor, and 2 doors per floor as well. And we separated the cost into the standpipe system, which was definitely the most cost expensive one. And the standpipe system consists of the fire pump, the piping by itself, and the hydrant accessories as well. So all in all, to have enough water pressure, let me put it like this, which is able to cover all of the floors and also the top floor as well. The average cost for a standpipe system was about 90,000 USD. The cost for a automatic addressable fire alarm and smoke detecting system, I hope I put it right, Joris, this wording, was about some 13,600 USD on an average for such kind of a factory, so a 4 stories building. The fire doors, so the costs are about 1,000 USD per fire door, which need to be installed there. The number of fire doors for a 4-story building come roughly up to 10 to 12 doors. And then we have the electrical system also. That means if you need to repair the different panel boards, if you need to repair the cabling and the wiring and the generator and the LT panel, there are also some costs involved, and we were averaging them by 6,000 USD. So all in all, the cost involved 3 years back was about 120,000 USD for an average sized factory in Pakistan. So now I'm coming to the end of my presentation. What were the key lessons? What were the key lessons for us? Number one, awareness is key. Awareness is key, definitely for us as the brands, but very important awareness on the side of the factory's owner and of the management. So that means we are not doing that just only for a business. Most important is to protect the workers and to keep the workers' rights. That was the most important topic. Then we made the experience that not necessarily on the ground in the factories, there are some technical teams available. So that means we were bringing together the different factories with electrical safety experts, with structural safety experts and fire safety experts in Karachi, in Lahore and Faisalabad as well. What we also want to point out that factories should not buy any equipment, but first very carefully and precisely align before, for example, a standpipe system or a smoke detecting system is being bought, first align very carefully with the different engineers under the umbrella of the international accords. These are the different case handlers. Safety improvements are not limited to physical remediation. I think that is a safe explaining topic. Also, the workers' behavior should be trained, and workers should also learn when a safety issue is being highlighted and coming up in the different factories, so that workers are able to run out a factory immediately and address the point through an occupational health and safety committee. And finally, what I just want to say, remediation is definitely absolutely key for the workers. Here KIK is doing no compromise, but for sure, as Bangladesh was definitely raising its competition, remediation is also good for business. So some closing remarks from my side. All the inspections, I would like to say they went well. There were 3 factories finally which had to be shut down immediately after some safety hazards have been detected by the engineers. So the production was stopped. All the workers have been evacuated for the time being, and then they removed back to their workplaces. Competitive advantages is what I was just discussing with you through. And what I just want to point out here, all the factories now taking part and all the associations taking part in this call, there is no reason to be afraid for the Accord inspections at all. The brands are there to help. The International Accord has a big team. They have a high specialty in engineering, a high knowledge, and we will take you at our hand and lead you through the process. And inspection is not something, and the remediation, which is not something which is being done in 1 year. What Jochen was pointing out, at least the factories have time for 3 years in Bangladesh. Still, some of the factories are in the remediation progress, and here the accord has been launched back in the year of 2013. What I want to say, factories will have time, and brands will support all of the factories by keeping the order volume stable. And with these words, I want to finish my presentation, and I want to thank you very, very much for your attention. And I want to hand back now to to Mr. Theis.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lohman. This was quite an extensive presentation, and it is really an eye-opener to see how much KIC has done, is continuing to do in Pakistan. Thank you very much, KIC. But all said and done, all this is quite good. It's excellent for Pakistan. But however, we must be quite aware of one fact. The Pakistan dynamics are very, very different from Bangladesh. And we are honored to have Mr. Ijaz Khokar with us, who was the former chairman of PREGMIA. He's the executive board member of the International Apparel Federation. And he would like to speak in this occasion and to raise questions, raise points for the international accord and the Pakistan Accord to consider to make this a really productive and doable enterprise, a doable thing, a good thing for Pakistan. Mr. Ijaz Khokar, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Danish bhai. First of all, I'm very grateful for the President, German Pakistan Chamber of Commerce, Janab Pervez Akhtar Sahib. Also, I'm very grateful, Matthias, our Honorary Consul General in Germany, for organizing this awareness session with the Accord team. I must say that Mr. Lohman gave a very, very important presentation, which is very impressive. Also, Mr. Joham and Mr. Joris had a very good presentation on the Accord. Everybody listen me well? Hello?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes, very good.
I don't, now I can see, yes, I think. Okay, first of all, I introduce myself. I have a garment industry in Sialkot. I am a former chairman of Pakistan Ready-Made Garment Association and a senior member of PREGMIA, also executive board member of International Apparel Federation since last 5-6 years. I represent Pakistan Ready-Made Garment Association, and I will highlight some progress and some activity of the Pakistan Ready-Made Garment Association and Pakistan Export especially. First of all, I will just give a little view, short view on the Pakistan total export. At the moment, this year, our export was at $27.73 billion against 31.78 last year. So it is the shortfall of around 12.73%. I mean, if we see our total export against the textile, just a minute. Yes. Our textile group, whole group, which is apparel, yarn, and fabric and other thing, all the textile group, total export is out of 27.73. The textile group gained an export of $16.50 billion against $19.33 billion last year. That means we are losing around 14.63%, which is the total export, which is the 12.73% of total export. Apparel export is the, just a minute. Out of the textile total export, which is the $16.50 billion, the apparel export is $8.62 billion against 9.87 last year. So our textile share out of the total export of Pakistan is the 59.50%. This is the export performance of the textile. So you can understand that apparel export is the 8.62 billion US dollar. If we compare Pakistan export with the Bangladesh, as I mentioned you, Joris, in our previous meeting, Pakistan dynamics are very different than the Bangladesh. They have about 6,000 garment factories. In Pakistan, mostly, I mean, if we calculate knitwear and woven, it is around 850 garment factories of both, all in Pakistan, right? Out of that, 10% is the large scale, and the rest of the factory are small and medium. So if you calculate, I think less than 100 large-scale factory, which are working with the brands. All the brands, they are not working with the small, medium enterprise because of the volume of the business. So small, medium factories engage with the small importer of European countries, American countries, because small importer, if we go to the large-scale factory, they don't entertain him. So there is no choice for him to go to the SME factories. SME factories not working for the brands you are mentioned. All the slide you show the many brands. So all the SME people, they are not engaged with the brands. So that means, and their workforce is less than 500. I mean, mostly SME factories workers are from 100 to 200, 300. This is the capacity. Where the large scale, they have around 1,000 and above, less than 2,000. Not like Bangladesh, some factory have 10,000, some have 15,000. So their factories are very large scale. And their factories are in a vertical buildings, whereas Pakistan factories are in a horizontal buildings. So this is the one difference. And their mostly their product line is a very vast. If we compare the Pakistan product line, we have a very small basket, very few articles which are fall under the basic. I mean, we are very good in a denim jean, home textile, towels, and sportswear. These are the major products for Pakistan, and little bit of workwears, gloves and something. Whereas Bangladesh have a large scale, their product is a very large. They are in a fashion, they are in a casual wear, where Pakistan is absolutely, they are zero in a casual wear. Fashion is too far. So they are doing a fashion things. And that's why their export is around 47 billion US dollar. So 47 billion US dollar compared to Pakistan 8.6. This is you can assess the strength of Pakistan apparel industry. And mostly, as I say, that 90% is the strength of SME. The slide which Mr. Loban say, I don't see that SME can afford these type of the measures for safety and health. Listen, we are, our worker are our assets. We are, I mean, flying on the strength of our workers because we have spent a lot of time, lot of investment to train, to bring on up to our level. So our worker is our assets. And nobody want to lose their assets, you see. We are very much looking for even SME. I tell you, even SME, they are giving an extra advantage to their workers because we are short of workers. So we try to retain maximum our worker with us for a long time. That means we are giving them all the legal things, legal rights, what they have. I mean, holidays, payment, the sick pay, I mean, absence, and all the, if they leave the factory, we them a gratuity, and we are, if there is a worker want to leave the factory, we give them a 1 month notice or 1 month notice pay. So we are fully focused on that. And every small and medium factory like to save themselves because their survival is on their business. So they want to try to cover up all the safety measures, fires and other things, not as compared to the big factory which they have. Secondly, all the big factories, they have a compliance from their buyers. So our people, they have a question that if the accord, we sign the accord, does all the buyer will withdraw their compliance? I mean, some of the buyer, out of the book, I tell you, we have some feedback that buyers say, okay, we signed the accord, but please don't worry, carry on. I mean, they are giving these words to their supplier because they want to lose their suppliers because of good price, good quality, timely service. So their priority is that, you see. Okay, for the big factories, some of the factories, they have a limitation. They have to comply the buyer's conditions to sign the accord. We are not against the accord. Please make it very clear. We are not against the accord. We just want that some of the apprehensions, some of the points which come up in our members' mind, that need to be solved. So it would be a win-win situation for both of us, for accord, for the people. So at the moment, there is a lot of mistrust developed, you see. We can remove that mistrust by working together very closely. So, I mean, I have a few points which I like to mention. I also like to mention that we are working with the Decent Work program. We have signed for a 4-year, you know that. Decent work is, I mean, all the factories, they are complying that. That's why they are in that. Better work program is there. ILO, I mean, GIZ is working very closely with our small, medium and large scale in a different, I mean, in a conservation of energy, in carbon emissions and others. So all these international organizations are already working very smoothly. That we want, why not a card team to follow that system or that style to sum up the apprehension or trust between the stakeholder and core team. First of all, there one question. I'm not criticizing, please excuse me, I'm just conveying my stakeholders' question to you. It is not a criticism, please make it your mind clear. I just posing their question to you so we can find a good answer, and I present them again that this was the answer. Their first question is, accord, why not accord go to China, which is the major brand producer of the European countries and American countries? Do you think their all factory are fully compliant with the accord measures? This is the one question. Same is, they are also asking why, I mean, accord did not go to the India, Sri Lanka and Vietnam, which business of apparel is much larger than Pakistan. They have a huge number of factories in India, in Vietnam, in China, and Sri Lanka. In Pakistan, as I say you, if you look of our volume, India volume is much higher. China is #1, Bangladesh is #2. Okay, you did a very good job in Bangladesh. I really give you the compliment. And but there is a one question regarding Bangladesh. People ask why accord quit on the direction of the Supreme Court of Bangladesh. What is the reason? Did they were little bit working out of the boundary over there? Or what was the reason that why the Bangladesh people taken a call to the court to quit Bangladesh? So they need also wanted to know what was the basic reason to, exit of accord from Bangladesh. Secondly, the financial burden. As I say you, SME and majority medium industry, other than the large scale industry, which I already mentioned you, which is the around 10%, they are already working, as Mr. Lohman said, they are already doing a 65% of their safety measures in their factories. So only 35, so they can afford. But for the small and medium, which factory is not in line, as Mr. Lohman said, it is not an organized factory. It is some of the work they are doing in a rented place, some of their working their small factories, which are not a modern factory, not a single line factory. They have a different rooms or different structure. So if your engineer say it is not a perfect building, you need to demolish and other things, how we can build a new factory? Is they are ready, if the buyer bearing their financial cost, then they are ready to adopt any sort of amendments, changes according to your engineering team of electrification, safety measure, fire safety. They are ready, but they need a financial support from their buyer. So this is one of the major things. Also, they were asking that the agreement which you sign with the buyers, it is not shared with the manufacturers. Is it a secret document or what is this? So if you can share it with the buyer and manufacturer, it will build up a confidence that this is the buyer. Buyer is responsible for accord, and what accord was the agreement. And first of all, I say you, the main objection, which was your initially public version, it is very confusing. I think it was supposed to be prepared with the consultation of local stakeholder jointly with the mutual understanding. So then they were able to take a ownership. It was prepared from your side and you just introduced. So everybody say, we were not consulted. So I think if you rethink about that, and if you offer them a redraft with the consultation of stakeholder, it would be a good gesture, and there will be a very positive reaction. They will show a very positive reaction. The last, what is not least, you see, I must say, the steering committee induction. At the moment, your steering committee is all the accord members. We want steering committee should have a equal representation. If you have 3 people, our stakeholder must be 3 people part of that. So any negative or positive decision to be taken jointly with the consultation. So this is the very important. I think you discuss with your team. Let us know, how we can move further. So I mean, these are the small issues, Joris. These are the not critical very issues. It is easily can be addressed. And if you address, our comfort level will become down and they will be, freely come forward. At the moment, you see, you already have a meeting with the ministry. Ministry is also fear that if we take a decision, stakeholder is not stand with that, it is the insult of the government, you see. They want that you should to accord to satisfy the stakeholder. I'm happy that we have a long lot of meeting together, but same I request you, please engage with the PHMA, Towel Association, Bedwear Association. Like we are talking, you should to engage with them like you engage with the Prigyan. I'm happy. We have a very good communication with you. And this is the reason last we met on 27 in a Texpo. I playfully welcome you. Okay, let's have a discussion, because discussion door not closed. I mean, it is open all the time. And there is a room for the correction, for the addition, deletion. That is, I mean, at the moment, people think that this public version is a kind of legal agreement. So, I mean, this, I suggest that this should to be redrafted with the consultation of stakeholders. So then they cannot deny the ownership. You can say it is mutually, I mean, we build up with your viewpoint, with your consultation, then they will cannot skip themselves, I'm sure. So these are the, and lastly, I think yesterday I heard a news, might be you well aware, that there is the fire incident in Fakir Apparel. I mean, they are the accord team. So I say, after all the mayors, sometimes these incidents happen, not, I mean, these are the accidental happens everywhere. So this factory, if they have a fire, 20 people injured, I see yesterday in the newspaper. So, I mean, they are the accord, you see, even then they have an incident. So you can't say that accord is the complete 100% guaranteed mayor can guarantee the factory that there will nothing happen. And lastly, I mean, maybe ministry also has a little reservation, or our people, that the last few episodes which hurt the Pakistan credibility. I mean, in America, Levi store activity and some of the labor leader which went to the European Union, and they have portrayed a wrong picture of Pakistan. This is the really not acceptable to any Pakistani entrepreneur, even anybody, because our Pakistan name, if suffer badly in Europe due to these wrong activities, it would not be acceptable to private sector, even to the government sector. So these things, we request you not to be repeated again, because this is also build up a mistrust level between the private and public sector. So these are some issues which I highlighted. I think we are not too far each other. As I say you, if we address these small issues, in my opinion, these are the small issues. You have a vast program. It is the, I mean, nobody can deny this. It is the very important for any industry, not only for the garment industry, for any industry. We love to learn about how to improve our safety standard, our labor standard. But for the labor side, I think if your local team give you the wrong picture about the labor, I know, I fully not agree with that, because our labor is our valuable assets. So they, I mean, nobody want to lay off the labor, because we spent a lot of time and money to bring them up to the good producer of on the machines. So labor issue, I think first you I suggest, first you please focus on the safety, safety of the building, fire safety, health safety, and labor you can add up on the second phase. Also, I suggested you that if you want that SME to join also, please make one, this is your standard version. For the large scale, this is your standard version. But my suggestion is, if you bring a soft version for the small and medium, I think we can motivate them and gradually they will start up, because you are targeting about take on board the 500 companies in Pakistan, which I doubt in the initial state it wouldn't be possible until and unless small medium will join you. If you bring a soft version for them. So then they will start up, and we will motivate, we will help you to motivate our peoples. This is absolutely, these are the, at the moment, you see, reduction of business also a worry for the exporter and a small medium, because $4 billion shortfall in Pakistan export, it is a lot of amount, and it may be next year also, it's not to be considered a good year. It is next year going to be a very tough year. Most of the economists say it would not be a good year. So everybody is very careful. They are fearing not to invest further in their business, you see. So these are the things. And whatever I'm available with you anytime. You can catch me on my mobile, our chairman is out of country, otherwise he was ready to join, Mr. Mubashir. But these issues, I think, not a major issue, which is you can say it is not addressable. These are the addressable issues. And that's all from my side. I'm sorry again if you, if my view, my suggestion, please don't mind it. As I say, it is not my voice, it is my member voice. I'm in the middle between my member and with your team. And I think all your team, they did a very good job. I have no any second mark. Everything is good. And we want to go, everybody, we like to grow our business, our apparel business in Pakistan. Nobody can afford the decline in export, you see. And decline in export is not good for the industry, because keeping a labor for 1 month, 2 months is okay. But if it is a further decline, ultimately they have no choice to leave the labor by giving their benefits. So I think in present economic condition of Pakistan, it is not affordable to reduction in a business. So lay off to the people. If we lay off, how they will get the job? We are very careful for that. We know as a human being, we have to see their livings, you see. So that's all. Thank you very much, and we'll stay in contact. So
thank you very much, Mr. Jasgopar. Thank you very much for your expression of all your concerns, which are really an eye-opener. And I'm sure that Mr. Oldenzai, Mr. Lohman, Mr. Overmeyer will look into all your concerns and will interact with you. It is also quite apparent, Mr. Oldenzai, Mr. Lohman, Mr. Overmeyer, just my comment, that Pakistan is just a small cog in the whole textile world. He's right. What about China? What about Sri Lanka? What about India? What about Vietnam? They are our competitors. If you don't put these restrictions on them, they will get away with a lower cost of production as opposed to us. Where will we stand? It's a good question. It's a good point. It's something you have to look at. And also, we have a great extent of SMEs, maybe a different approach for SMEs. A staggered approach for Pakistan is the name of the game. Thank you very much. If Mr. Oldenzai, Mr. Lohman, Mr. Overmeyer, would you like to comment at this stage to add any of these points, please?
Excuse me, Danish Bhai. One thing I want to add. It is not a criticism. It was just a suggestion to come together as early as possible. My points are not any criticism. Please don't think in that way. Thank you.
Yes, if I may, just I think first of all, thank you very much, Just. I think these are questions which are definitely legitimate. These are questions which we have faced before. Because we don't start just today, but have months behind, where especially Joris and his team and the Secretariat has been conducting a lot of stakeholders in Pakistan, from the government, from the business side, from civil society, from the union side. So we definitely try to do our homeworks. There's a lot of questions, some of them maybe to answer quite quickly, others definitely need that we have to discuss it in deeper. But what I hear and what I feel from your questions, and I don't know if we should answer them now one by one, but what I feel as general, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear on your side that you're overwhelmed with something which you cannot cope with. I think to some extent I share your feelings, but what I can tell you is actually we are not threatening you. What we try to do is, with the help of the brands, because of course we have our interest, but we also have our responsibilities under the law. And what we want to have is we want to have safe countries where we can source and where we can reduce the risk which we are facing if we don't source in safe countries. So of course we can let Pakistan pass by, and brands will consider and say, shall I go to Pakistan? Because there I have risks. I cannot address these risks. So they may choose to go to other countries. They may choose even to go further to Bangladesh because the risks are their minimum. So what we are offering you is the second country after Bangladesh to reduce your risk and become one of the safe countries where brands would love to buy from. So don't take it so much as a threat, take it as a chance, as I'm saying it. Your question, why don't you go to China, is very legitimate, of course, but Pakistan is not China, and China is a world power, and China just says, you know what, guys, either you buy or we don't let you in the country.
Yeah.
So it's a question, it's a blunt question of commercial power game, which is there. But in the end, if the brands will not be able to source in China because they face risk under the law here, they will look for countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan to alternative source to, because they have not these risks. So yes, we would love to go to China, but they will not let us into the country. In the moment they have the much more forceful role. We have to admit it. We can only do what we can do. So what we do is, on the competition level, we can't beat them on the political level, of course, but we can do on the competition level is say, my dear China, there may be alternatives where we want to work with in future. And you see the business is going to Bangladesh in the moment massively. So this is already an alternative, but we need more alternatives. It's a kind, politically, it's decoupling what companies are looking for. They don't want to depend 100% on China. They are looking for alternatives. And we want to prepare Pakistan to be one of the alternatives. Vietnam, India, Sri Lanka, they are on our list, but we are not a world organization. We have 100 brands who are financing all this. So on our feasibility studies, we looked at all these countries, and then we figured out what are the countries where we see the most success, where we see the most brands signing up for it because they have an interest in this country. And I can tell you, on our list is India, on our list is Sri Lanka, on our list is Morocco, and on our list was Pakistan. That was 4 countries which are on the immediate list. So, and we decided to take Pakistan first because we see that Pakistan offers the biggest chance to make a chance to work with you guys, to create an industry where brands are loving to source for. And you see, the Americans, which haven't signed the Bangladesh Accord, start now to sign the Pakistan Accord because they see what we are doing, what we are capable of. Small and medium-sized enterprises, medium-sized enterprises. Yes, definitely a problem. I can't answer this in a moment. But we all know that we are in a world economy. And if you have to play by the rules, which are there from the buying side and from the offering side. So if the rules are saying from the brand side, I cannot afford to work with a small company where I have to fear that they have building collapse tomorrow or that they have a big fire tomorrow, then this is a fact. And this company, if the accord is coming or not coming, this company would be out of business tomorrow. Yeah, this has nothing to do with the accord. Instead, by offering you also from the brand side, because these brands who are nominating these smaller and medium-priced enterprises into the accord, if they are nominating them, they're taking up a responsibility that they are able to remediate. And if they're financially not able to remediate, the brands have to financially support them. This is what they have signed for. Yeah. So as long as you're nominated for these small and medium-priced enterprises, yeah, they take the responsibility and they just can't walk away. They can't say, okay, I don't put any orders anymore. Yes, they can say, but they are still responsible for 18 months for the remediation of this factory. So it is a problem, I agree with you, but we have tried to deal with it, and I think we have managed to deal with the small and medium-priced enterprises. So steering committee, equal representation, that also relates to your third question, Supreme Court decision, what was it all about? I can tell you what it was all about. It was because at the beginning, it was an unprecedented exercise we were doing, never done before. So we went into Bangladesh bipartite. Yeah, we used the market power of the brands to push through. And what we didn't realize is that, of course, we need national stakeholders. And this is what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court said after these years, they recognized that we were successful, but they are saying, we cannot allow you as a foreign organization to take up these tasks totally without involving national stakeholders. Yeah. So it is you are under the Bangladeshi government, and it should be a national organization. It shouldn't be a foreign organization. So this is where RSC actually was born, because then Dr. Rubana Haq came up with the RSC idea, saying tripartite. And the Supreme Court said, if this is an agreement of the country, it meets our requirements. And the Supreme Court agreed that there would be RSC. So this is it. This is what we fixed. And this is what also one of our learnings were. Equal stakeholder representation. Yes, if this is what we're looking for. I told you, it's a mutual agreement. It is, even if you are only one in the national board of the Bangladesh Accord, and there will be a national board, it is all decisions are mutual. There will be no overruling. Yeah, so we have to come to a compromise where all three parties agree to, and it doesn't matter if you're with 10 people on the board or if you're with 2 people on the board. Decisions can only be taken mutual. Yeah, so this is one of the principles we have since the beginning of the accord, and it is difficult. Yes, yeah, we have a lot of confrontations. We had a lot of confrontation with the union since the beginning. The first years, it was like going into a fighting cage every day. So we invite you to sit on the board of the National Pakistan Accord, and there is a mutual decision-making. What we reserve in the moment for the international accord, because this would be the umbrella agreement, you can compare it with a franchise. We are a franchisee, and we're giving these franchise to the different countries, where the national board will take its adaptations, the necessary decisions be taken, what is different in Pakistan to Bangladesh, how do we handle things different. So this is national, and this is tripartite. Boost of image. I think we boost your image. Yeah, of course, as you say, it is the one most successful initiative in the history of fashion industry. So if Pakistan is joining now, it boosts your image. It is not saying, oh, look, they are punishing Pakistan now. The poor guys, they are not confronted with the accord, don't go there. Wrong. Yeah, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. So, I think one of your last question was, we don't focus on labor. It's not in our mandate. Our mandate is health and safety. Yeah, this is where it is. Yeah, we have 3 pillars. This is remediation. This is training of workers. We trained Joris, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 million workers in Bangladesh, here to make them aware personally that safety is a personal issue. It's not something only the management cares about. If they see a crack in the wall, they should raise their finger and say there's a crack in the wall. If they see somebody is smoking on the floor, they should say there is a dangerous smoke in the floor. This is what we try to do. And the certain is, of course, there are problems. And what we try to do is through the grievance system to solve these problems. We hear about, then they are discussed with industry. And you will see in Bangladesh it's working. It is finally directly brought to a solution here, and this is functioning really good with 1,000 grievances a year. So
Yeah.
yes, don't be afraid.
No,
Don't be
not
afraid.
We are Pakistani, never afraid, you see. I just, two things which I like to discuss. You mentioned small, medium people, they are working European small importers because small importer cannot go to the large scale. So they are good matchmaking, small importers buy from a small manufacturer at the very competitive price, and they are your importers selling it to the public with the affordable prices. So they are supporting your financial, social economic condition, because some of your European who cannot buy the brands, they go to the small retailers to buy the ordinary brand. So it is a win-win situation for both. Secondly, I think one thing is more clarity. We need more clarity. So with the accord, do you think all the buyers will eliminate their own compliance? Because otherwise it is a too much fatigue work, you see, because already every buyer have a different compliance. So some of my people in a 1 month, 30 days, they have spent 10 days in a different compliance. So we need to cut down. This is a fatigue work on
this is what I call, just this is what
my question is, are the buyer is your signatory will eliminate their own compliance and they will leave all up to the accord?
Yes.
This is the
clear purpose of the accord. This is the clear purpose of the accord. We have one standard. This standard is accepted by all buyers, and they are going to apply these standards.
So then please do me a favor. Ask the brand to write to their supplier that if you sign a accord, we will eliminate. This will give a more confidence to the companies. They will be clearly. So please, when you sign the agreement with the buyers, so please ask them to write down a small email to their supplier that if you sign this, we will eliminate our own compliances. This will give a big confidence and people will come to you clearly.
I don't have to do this because this is already standard. Yeah, if we go into the country, there is one standard.
Manufacturer wants some undertaking from the buyer.
Yeah.
May I interrupt, please?
Please.
First, Oldenzaal has raised his hand. He probably wants to comment on this. If you don't mind, gentlemen, let's give Joris a chance to say something.
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to jump in here and also address some of the points. And Ijaz, first of all, thank you very much for openly sharing these concerns. Some of them we have already discussed previously, and we've also written to you and Mr. Mubashir Bhatt with some of the concerns. So we are very much looking forward to continuing our conversation and looking at these points, how we can effectively address them. And like you say, I fully agree with you that these are actually relatively minor points. These are things we can address and that we can discuss. Maybe we cannot resolve all the issues because, of course, some of them are serious issues that we need to address over time, but we can discuss them and see how we can best accommodate them. On the issue of the buyers programs, I think it's important to note that indeed, like Jochen already mentioned, we expect the buyers to discontinue their fire and building safety programs. But of course, the accord does not include all the labor rights, as Jochen already mentioned. And so we cannot ask buyers to discontinue their social auditing programs that are related to other issues around labor rights. But as it relates to fire and building safety, we expect brands to discontinue their fire and building safety programs. And we know that some of them are actually already preparing to wind down those activities. So as it relates to fire, electrical, structural, and boiler safety, we will really work with the brands to make sure it's a collective approach, and we're reducing the audit fatigue and audit pressure on the suppliers. So I just wanted to note that. I think Jochen already mentioned a lot of other points in response to the points that you raised. Just one more thing I wanted to mention here is the SMEs. Of course, we realize that some of these requirements are tough on the SMEs. On the other hand, 2 points to raise. First of all, we don't just have 100 factories on our list that produce for the Accord brands. We have 450 factories on our list that produce for the Accord brands. And so these factories are producing directly for Accord brands. And that also means that the Accord brands have a responsibility to ensure that remediation is financially feasible through their commercial terms. And so they are committed to that. And if there are any issues, we've had that experience in Bangladesh in about 10% of the factories, they raise a finance request with us, and we bring the brands and the factories together to see what can be done, for example, in terms of longer term order commitments, advance payments to future orders, higher order volumes, to support factories and give them the confidence that the investments they are making in fire and building safety ultimately pay off in more business with the Accord brands. So I think we can even work with these SMEs. And if they are really small and medium-sized companies, then often some of the requirements don't apply to them. Like, for example, sprinkler installation is only required if you are 5 floors or higher. So if it's a small factory with a small number of workers, the remediation cost will also be smaller. So I think it's something that we can overcome. But of course, today I know we're way over time, so we can't discuss everything, but we really look forward to engaging with you and the other industry associations going forward to discuss this in more detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Joris Oldenzaal. Thank you, Mr. Jochen Obermeier, Mr. Ansar Lohman, and Mr. Jas Koker. And last but not least, our collaborator in this event, without whom it would not be possible, our Consul General Honorary Consul of Pakistan to North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany, Mr. Matthias Theis. Thank you very much. It has been an insightful discussion, and I hope this can give fruit to positive steps going ahead to make this a win-win situation for everyone. We, as a chamber, the German-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, are also looking at future, what it calls, webinars. And one of the webinars which we have targeted, we are already talking with UNICEF. We already held 2 programs with UNICEF, because this is part of the Supply Chain Due Diligence Act, which the German government has passed. And UNICEF, in fact, was the mover and shaker of it. So please look forward, everyone, to this next webinar, which we are still building on and working on. Thank you very much. All the very best to all of you, and Pakistan Zindabad.
Thank you. Goodbye. Goodbye.